Senate Judiciary is now in session. My comrade, Senator Reardon, I think it's your turn. If you can do the pledge for me. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Senator. We are going to start with HB 1175, relative to the offense of using scanning devices or recorder to defraud. Welcome, Grant.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Grant Bossy. I'm Deputy Chief of Staff of the New Hampshire Senate, here to introduce House Bill 1175 on behalf of Representative Joe Alexander. I normally don't introduce bills on behalf of House members, but he asked very nicely. This is a very simple bill to update our state's anti-skimming statute. Skimming, as you know, is stealing information off a credit card or a gift card. The statute is narrowly worded to apply to stealing information off the magnetic strip. However, newer cards, if you have a tap to pay, they may not have a strip, they'll have a chip embedded in them. So this simply adds that chip to the statute so that people who skim the newest credit cards or gift cards can also be prosecuted under the existing law. I would defer questions to Representative Alexander or the other people here to testify on behalf of this bill. And thank you for your consideration of HB 1175.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I don't think we have any questions. Seeing none, have a great day, Grant. I'll ask nicely when I want you to do me a favor too. That's the key, okay? Okay. I thought it was because you loved me, but that's okay. Kate Horgan. Kate, a day or two ago, I had all green. Now it's all gone. So,
good morning or good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kate Horgan. I'm here on behalf of the New Hampshire Association of Counties in support of this bill. This was a request of the county attorneys. They have run into several situations because the bill is so narrowly defined, or the statute is so narrowly defined, that they are unable to prosecute people under this statute. The example that was given to me is there was a individual who was working at Dunkin' Donuts who had one of those Square card readers on her hip, and rather than tapping for Dunkin' Donuts, she tapped on her hip at the drive-thru and handed it back. They were able to prosecute her under other statutes, but this is the most appropriate place where they should have been able to charge her for fraud. And I am happy to take any questions. It is just a technical update to the current statute.
I have no questions. How about? Nope. Oh, good. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Horgan, for taking my question. I didn't follow that story. I don't understand how that worked. What?
So there was a employee at a Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, it was an employee.
At the working the drive-through. So when someone
she was inside. I thought you were talking about somebody who drove through the drive-through.
Oh, no.
Like,
she was an employee working the drive-through. I apologize if that was unclear.
Okay, and she took someone's
So people would come up to
gift card.
Collect their order and pay with their credit card.
Oh, credit card.
And rather than scanning the Dunkin' Donuts machine with the card, she scanned the Square chip reader that she had on her hip.
Okay. All right.
We're good, Ms. Horgan. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
That now makes so much more sense.
Okay. Anyone wish to testify on 1175 who didn't sign up? Seeing none, that'll end the hearing. About 3 minutes, Brendan? Sounds good. For passing a stopped school bus. And who's introducing? Come on down, Representative. Good to see you. You know, the only hat bigger than that is Tim has one. Tim Lang is a really big one. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's got all kinds of money, so that's good to see you, Representative. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Honorable Senate Committee. I'm here to introduce House Bill 1308, which is a bipartisan effort to enhance the penalty for passing school buses while they are actively embarking and disembarking children. One of the reasons that we started looking at this is there's been a mismatch between the number of offenses occurring and the number of offenses reported. And part of the reason for this is while the bus driver's statement is admissible, when this happens, the bus driver is often distracted by looking out for the safety of the children, trying to slam the door and making sure that they know that there is an active vehicle where there are pedestrian children. So the ability to positively identify a driver, accurately write down the license plate number, year, make, and model, description, etc., becomes skewed. Presently, under the law, it takes a warrant to pull the camera footage. I've talked with law enforcement and bus driving companies alike, and both of them basically said that the standard of a warrant over what right now is a minor traffic infraction is unreasonable. So what's happening is the bus driver companies are reporting this, and the police don't have enough to action on it. And so the bus driver companies more or less stop reporting it because it hasn't been going very far. And that's what's creating the mathematical mismatch as to why this doesn't look on paper like it's significantly happening. But when you talk to the bus companies, they'll tell you sometimes they'll go a week without it happening, and sometimes it'll happen 2 or 3 times in a day. So rescheduling this to a misdemeanor due to its extreme risk, it really is tantamount to reckless endangerment of children, and that's why we look to reschedule toward a misdemeanor. And reducing the standard on that camera as a verification tool from a warrant would be practical in order to, 1, put together the case to actually prosecute, or 2, for the defense of somebody when they are not the driver or when the action didn't occur if there was a misrepresentation by a bus driver. I don't think that that's likely, but in the event that it happens, the camera can be used for defense or for prosecution. It goes in line with increasing the burden of proof for the state where we are rescheduling it to a misdemeanor. So that is the proposal that we're bringing before you without reading the whole bill and just telling you what it does and what it's about.
Question quick. So walk me through again. So you said we're raising up the penalty, but we're lowering the standard of proof.
No, the opposite.
Okay.
We're raising the penalty
Yep.
and we're making the standard of proof more viable by not requiring a warrant to get the camera footage. So the camera can be used for both prosecution and defense.
So is the defense going to have an argument that by lower, because you've increased the penalty, or the 3 penalties, depending on what time it is, you've increased the penalty, but you've lowered the burden, you don't need the warrant anymore. Isn't that going to be a problem with the defense attorney? But maybe I need to, I'll think it out more. I'll get back to you. But
Thank you.
I see a problem. I want the bill to pass. I like the bill. Hate seeing people drive by these buses. I see a defense problem with, maybe Senator Reardon might pick it up, what I'm trying to say better. Do you understand what go ahead.
I will say, I understand the bill and I understand the difference between getting a warrant and issuing a subpoena.
Yep.
To get it. So the burden of proof doesn't change in charging the person. It's just getting the evidence that you're making it easier for here. Let me just ask a hypothetical question. It's easy to get we'll just say it's easier to get that camera footage now. Can it be used for any purpose other than identifying a vehicle?
Absolutely not, Madam Senator. It's actually written in the bill that it can only be used, hold on, let's just a second, video shall be used for the sole purpose, this is line 7 and 8, for the sole purpose of supplementing observations and sworn statements of the school bus driver or operator.
Cool. Thank you.
That's what I was after. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for bringing the bill. Rep. Auroras? That's you, okay. I got you, okay. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Representative Cyril Orrs, Merrimack 13, representing Pittsfield and Chichester. And the reason I wanted to testify on this bill is I've had the experience several times of watching people pass a stopped school bus, including a bus my kids were getting on. And believe it or not, I think it's a case of people not paying attention. And the more attention we can give this matter in a positive way and to make it a little bit painful for people, I think would be a great thing. My wife is here in the room today, Rosemary, and she made the mistake of stopping for a school bus with flashing lights and kids getting out and got rear-ended. And the person's excuse was, I didn't see you. I'm just like, then you better pay attention or not drive a car. And one other incident in the city, not too far away in the distant galaxy, I actually ran after a car that passed the stopped school bus. And the only reason I was able to catch up to this guy is because he actually stopped at an intersection where he had to stop. And he was in a hurry and he didn't have time. So that's my testimony. We'll take any questions if you like. I strongly support this bill.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, thank you for coming
Thank
in
you.
today. Appreciate it. Mr. Quinn? Good afternoon. At the little red button, yep.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking our testimony. This is Bridget Quinn. She is our legislative director for New England for the Teamsters Union. My name is Rick Lawton. I'm a business agent for Teamsters Local 633 here in New Hampshire. I'm a 48-year Teamster member, still getting out there every day and doing it. I'm speaking on behalf of the over 900 school bus drivers that we have under contract. We have contracts with three different companies. I can tell you all the details, but everybody understands what goes on when a car passes a school bus, and it happens quite often. The driver, as was attested to before, the driver's looking at the children. They don't have time to look at license plates. They have no idea where the car was, where it came from. They're just worried about the kids, closing the door, making sure nobody else is in danger. We have great communication with the bus companies that we represent. We were just with them yesterday, as a matter of fact, one of them. And they support this. Everybody supports this. Like, I understand the penalty part is a little different. I understand about getting the evidence. I can tell you just real quickly, I spoke with one of the bus drivers yesterday who reported an incident in Exeter. She had to go to the police department. She had to testify to the officer. And it's really time consuming, not that it's not worth it. But there's better ways in today's world. Every car you buy now has cameras on it. These buses are already equipped with cameras. You know, we just need better cameras. We need cameras on the stop signs that go out. And the cost is what the cost is. What's the cost of a child's life, one child's life? You know, luckily we haven't had that, but you see that on the news every day. I've got a very short statement I'll read. I'll hand it to you, and then Bridget would like to say a couple of things. Testimony in support of House Bill 1308 relative to increasing the penalty for passing a school bus. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Rick Lawton. I'm here on behalf of Teamsters Local 633, proudly representing over 900 school bus drivers here in the state of New Hampshire. I rise today in strong support of House Bill 1308, with particular emphasis on the critical role that onboard video cameras play in protecting the students and supporting enforcement. Every day, our drivers witness dangerous, illegal behavior from motorists who ignore stop school buses. These are not occasional incidents, they are frequent and they are escalating. Drivers routinely report vehicles speeding past the stop arm, sometimes within the feet of the children entering or exiting the bus. For years, one of the biggest challenges is addressing the violation and the proof. School bus drivers' primary responsibility is the safety of the children, not chasing down license plates or identifying drivers in the moment. In many cases, by the time an incident occurs, the vehicle is gone and enforcement has become nearly impossible. That is where onboard camera systems have become essential. These cameras provide clear, objective evidence of the violations. They capture the license plate, vehicle description, in many cases, the driver themselves. More importantly, they document exactly what occurred, removing doubt and strengthening the ability of law enforcement to take appropriate action. House Bill 1308 appropriately recognizes this reality by reinforcing the use of video equipment to supplement a driver's sworn statement. This is not about replacing human judgment, it's about supporting it with reliable and verifiable facts. Also provides transparency and fairness. Vehicle owners have access to the recordings, ensuring due process while still prioritizing child safety. Our members do not want to be in the position of documenting violations, as they want drivers to stop when the lights are flashing, the stop arm is out. Cameras make this expectation real, enforceable, and consistent. At the end of the day, this is about prevention. Every recorded violation represents a moment where a child could have been seriously injured or worse. Cameras help us intervene before that happens. So on behalf of the 900 school bus drivers we represent, I respectfully urge you to support House Bill 1308 and the enhanced use of video enforcement tools included in this legislation. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions. Rick Lawton, Teamsters Local 633.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bridget Quinn, and I'm here representing Teamsters Joint Council 10 New England. So Joint Council 10 New England is essentially, we represent 53,000 Teamsters spread across 6 New England states. And I'm here to testify in favor of 1308, which I'm not going to repeat what Rick just said. But we know that passing a school bus with a stop arm extended is illegal. It's pretty simple, straightforward. And yet we know that between the years 2022 and 2023, there were 43 million illegal passings of school buses. There were 61 fatal crashes from the years 2000 to 2023. Any fatal crash, one is one too many. We know this. And so this bill will give our, law enforcement the tools to really enforce the laws, to make sure we're getting drivers who are passing illegally. And it's allowing, in a very narrow way, right, using that camera footage just for the purpose of of passing the school bus. So we really hope that you take up this bill and pass it along. We're happy to support this bill in any way we can moving it forward. And I will add that whether I'm talking to school bus drivers in New Hampshire or Massachusetts or Rhode Island, I always ask, like, tell me about your day. What's it like? What are the challenges that you have? What are why do you love what you do? And each school bus driver, each driver to a person says, I just love my kids. And I love seeing them every day. And I want to make sure that they are, they're safe getting on the bus, getting off the bus to and from school. So we really deeply care about making sure that our kids remain safe. And so 1308 is a good way to make sure we can do that.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn, for your testimony. Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. I preface this by saying I don't see any issue with the bill itself, with the policy. I think it's no excuse to violate this law. But I wanted to ask, and if you look on lines 5 and 6 into 7, it says that it can be made available by subpoena to law enforcement or the county attorney. I suppose if you're in a situation where someone's being accused of violating this and they wanted to defend the charge, how would they go about subpoenaing that? It seems limited. I suppose, that seems like a minor fix, but I'm just wondering, is there a reason why only the county attorney or police can get it? If there's no pending charges in the court, there's nothing for them, they don't have any way of subpoenaing it. But I guess if they are in court.
I don't know the answer specifically to your question. I'm not an attorney, but we can get the answer for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. How many did you say drive-bys of buses there are a year?
We have 900 on the contract.
No, I know. How many go by the buses, past the buses and don't stop?
40, there were nationwide.
Yeah.
43 million.
I thought you said a
passings.
big number like that.
It's
so
a big number.
Not a good number. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
If you don't mind inquiring why, if it was written that way for a reason, I will say that generally someone who defends people accused of crimes, we don't subpoena evidence. We think that will help prove our client's guilt. But I guess at the same time, if they swear up and down to me that they didn't do anything, I'm like, oh, it wasn't you. Well, let's get the video. But I feel like that.
That's what cameras can do.
Thank you.
Senator Oshler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lawton and Ms. Quinn. Is everyone okay in Exeter?
Everyone is okay in Exeter, yes.
No
As a matter
children
of fact,
were hit.
as a matter of fact, I was with the Exeter drivers yesterday.
Oh, nice. So no children were hit in this incident?
Oh, this
that she had to
this
go to the
incident
police?
wasn't recent. It was the shop steward was, going over it with me and she had it.
I
This
see.
this was an incident from the past.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both for coming up today. Appreciate it. Does anyone else wish to testify in 1308 who didn't get a chance to sign in? Seeing none, that'll end the hearing. She okay? She wasn't around yesterday. We're going to start the hearing on HB 1730. Senator Abbas is going to introduce the bill for us. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Senator Darrell Appis. I represent District 22, serving the communities of Pelham, Salem, Exeter, and Plastow. Just a brief background on this bill. There was a replace all amendment in the House that completely changed from what the original bill was. So the prime sponsor is different than the prime sponsor of the replace all. I did speak with Representative Rhodes, who championed the efforts in the House. She's unable to attend today, but just a brief background on this bill. It seems to strike language, and if you look at line 9 on the first page, they use their authority to coerce a victim to submit. We're dealing with offenses involving minors where we're talking about sex crimes against children where consent is not an issue there. A minor can't consent in the first place. So it doesn't really seem to make sense why that is an element of the offense at all. If consent is then they lack the capacity to consent in the first place. It should not impact the crime in any way. It's a matter of the act itself was done. So I think this was a good catch by our colleagues in the other chamber, and hopefully we support it not to pass at some point. And I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? I did read it over. It seems good. Others? Thoughts? Nope.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, this bill was originally just a political stunt to bring back the death penalty and has been amended all.
I can't speak on the intentions of why the bill was filed in the first place. At least the
Well-
original bill, I actually didn't even read the original bill because it was a replace all. I only read what was passed out of the other chamber.
It was, the original bill is to bring back the death penalty, so, which is in the docket. And actually, I mean, I don't have any objections to this, but we actually did this like 3-4 years ago. Like, it just seems that, sure, let's do it. But
I don't
it's-
understand.
We've done this
Are you
before,
talking about the death penalty or the bill that's before us?
the bill that's before us.
Okay, so you have no questions, so we're all set. Thank you, Senator Abbas, for your testimony.
Thank you.
Representative Ors, are you still here? Okay, no, it's signed in. Okay, we're all set. Anyone else wish to speak who didn't sign in? Come on up. I didn't, oh, Pam, you're there, support. Yeah, you checked no, so that's why I saw you in. Ms. Kelly, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you all?
Doing well.
For the record, my name is Pamela Keilig, and I work at the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. I just wanted to reiterate that when the bill, when the opportunity to look at the underlying, this bill, as you heard, was a replace all bill. The House saw there was an opportunity to make this technical fix in the sexual assault statute, just really recognizing that if someone is incarcerated, especially at a juvenile detention center, consent is not a question. And so we just are here supporting this fix in the statute and taking an opportunity to make a good policy decision from the underlying bill. So thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And we think this was a good catch by the House.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Colley.
Thank you.
No questions. And I believe that's it for testimony. Thank you all, and that'll end the hearing on 17:30. Thank you very much. What's that? Decision. Okay, Representative, everyone, we're back in session. It's HB 1040, and Representative Eric Turr is here to introduce the bill. Welcome, Representative. When you're ready, and you already got the red button, so we're good to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the Senate Judiciary. Again, my name is Eric Turr. I represent Brentwood, Rockingham County. It's my pleasure to present House Bill 1040 to the committee today. Let me start by making it clear, I am not an expert in property law or title process. The impetus for this bill came from my 92-year-old constituent, Mr. Jim McGeehan, who began consistently coming to my monthly office hours several years ago, actually, about this. We have very different political views, but we always manage to talk for an hour and a half to 2 hours about everything. He's a smart, practical guy. But his primary and persistent concern has been the issue of title theft, particularly through the quitclaim deed process. And I've come over time after researching this to strongly agree with him on this issue. On a sad note, he had planned to be here today to speak directly to you, but I learned yesterday from his family that his son had tragically died in a house fire yesterday. So I hope everyone can hold Jim McGeehan and his family in their thoughts. So going back to the bill, I started looking into this after our first meeting, spent a lot of time speaking with many of the stakeholders in this process. If you look at the bill, I've listed some of the many stakeholders that could potentially have opinions on this. I've become convinced it's a real and growing issue for New Hampshire. More importantly, it seems that our state is falling behind others in responding legislatively to this threat. And I think it's time to start looking at our options. That said, as I noted, the bill is asking for a study committee. The reason being that I learned there are also many opinions about this from different factions, and also many options that have been developed and are being implemented in other states. Little agreement, I think, exists at this point as to what would fit best in New Hampshire. So I've distributed some of the background information by email yesterday. Hopefully you all got that. I'll reference some of that in my testimony. So just to start off, a person or family's property is often their largest asset. So the impetus for theft in this area is high, and so is the potential. This theft mostly doesn't involve physically taking any property, just the value of the property. Transactions are typically done remotely, making it hard to identify once a transaction has been completed. It often involves vacant land, but not always. 1 in 10 of these crimes involves currently occupied single-family homes. So literally the value of your house can be taken out from under you while you're living there. To be clear, the actions that are involved here are already criminal. So we're not adding new crimes. The issue is that the value of the property can be stripped quickly, for example, by either flipping the property once a title is recorded or using it as collateral for a loan increasingly, where the bad actors can't be traced and the funds can't be recovered. On June 1st, 2025, this past June, I was pleased to see the New Hampshire Attorney General's office issue a consumer alert warning real estate owners to be, quote, diligent amidst reports of quitclaim deed fraud in New Hampshire. And it listed a range of actions for individuals to take, including things like setting Google alerts on your property, subscribing to fraud alerts on your property, seeking insurance, monitoring real estate websites, and even making sure your utility bills don't stop coming, which are great things to do, but all of them are designed basically to mitigate the impact of a fraudulent filing after it has happened. And they place the burden of the protection all place the burden of protection on the property owner to take the action. Another thing is these scams often target the elderly. So when I discussed these solutions that I learned about with Mr. McGeehan, he pulled out his flip phone and showed it to me as a way of explaining why that really wasn't going to be a solution for him. In contrast, the current focus nationally on this problem is primarily aimed at prevention. Many states are working to adopt preventive policies and legislation. Scanning the various state actions, there's a wide range of initiatives that others have developed. Also, these crimes can be carried out remotely, often are carried out remotely. So this makes any state which has more lax processes uniquely vulnerable to criminals outside of even our borders. The National Association of Realtors conducted a 2025 deed and title fraud survey to measure the nationwide occurrence of these scams and collect feedback on policy solutions. They got input from 43 states and territories, including New Hampshire. More than 3 in 5 respondents reported an incidence of deed or title fraud in the past year, and the Northeast region stood out as having 92% of respondents identifying at least one incident. So we're the highest section of the country for this. So in New Hampshire, quitclaim deeds cannot be distinguished from warranty deeds. And a warranty deed goes through a title insurance company and has additional protections. And also, I think most importantly, the registers have no authority under law to not file a deed when it's being presented. And that's RSA 478:4 states the register, quote, shall receive, file, and record for the legal charges all original deeds and instruments brought for that purpose. So there's no discretion even if something causes suspicion. I've learned that many fraudulent filings involve out-of-state parties where the notary on the document isn't known. Interestingly, there is section 478:42 in the law, which actually does registers to refer suspicious filings to the county attorney, who can investigate, request further information, and invalidate the filing if it's determined fraudulent. But this is only for filings of a lien against a property, not the deed for the property itself. At the point at which a lien is filed, the transaction appears much more valid than it might in the initial filing. So again, I've shared some materials by email, what some other states are doing. There's a wide range of options to list a few. As I mentioned, local discretion over filing, going through your county attorney, safe harbors for registers when they registers of deeds when they take such action, so that they can't be held responsible for raising that suspicion. A lot of states have adopted quitclaim deed language in the law so that a quitclaim deed can be distinguished from a warranty deed. Additional proof requested from out-of-state filers, where most of these come from. Known filer systems, where you can have a list of people who have already been validated, and some are even exploring, and I'm not suggesting this is our solution, but blockchain to validate transactions. And that's just a partial list. I will say some of these may have associated cost and burden, so that's a factor that I think should be factored into decisions of what changes might make sense for New Hampshire. Again, that's why I think a study committee, even though I know they're not always favored, I think is appropriate for this particular issue. It's widely acknowledged we can't stop every fraudulent transaction, but I do believe that we in New Hampshire can do better, and that we must do at least as good as the other states to avoid our state becoming a target. And with that, I'm glad to take any questions.
I'm going to thank you, first of all, for listening, having your monthly meeting and listening to both sides. You said you're very opposed on issues, different ideas, but you got together on that. So that's welcoming to see bipartisan work out there. So thank you for doing
Thanks.
that.
I really wish he had been able to be here today. He's a unique person.
It sounds like we would have enjoyed his presence. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you again for coming today and bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Okay, Joni McIntyre.
Good afternoon. My name is Joni McIntyre. I'm a real estate agent here in Concord, and I'm Vice Chair of Public Policy at the New Hampshire Association of Realtors. We would love for you to continue this as a study committee and continue to have conversation about it. We know that it's a real problem. The quitclaim deed part, it doesn't really touch us. Nobody has to come to us for that. But the land fraud, vacant land fraud, is a big part of what we see. As an example, a few months ago, I received a call from a very nice man. We had a lovely conversation about his land in, I believe it was Grafton. He didn't live in Grafton, he lived in Exeter. He got my name from a friend of a friend who knew I was a really good agent. So it was a very congenial conversation. And he said, you know, I can give you the address, you can go look at the land. And I said, well, actually, I don't work in Grafton, so let me refer you to somebody else. So I gave him the name of another agent in closer in the area. And as I hung up, I thought, what did I just do? So I quickly, at the at the New Hampshire Association of Realtors, we've tried to educate our members about land fraud. We've done sort of a full court press podcast episode, information about it, and we have an app on our phone that we can look up a phone number and see if it is the same name that the people gave us. So I thought, ooh, I better do that. I look up the name, it's not the same name. It's not 100% fail-proof, so I go to Grafton and look for that gentleman's name on the assessor's file. Nothing there. I go to the Registry of Deeds, there's nothing there. I go to Exeter and try to find where he lives in Exeter, and there's nothing there. And so flags all over the place. I called the agent up in Lebanon and I said, don't call this guy, don't take the phone call. I think it could be a land fraud. She never actually did hear from him, which was interesting. I've heard of instances where they get all the way to the closing table. One that didn't close, but we're hearing about it all of the time. So I think we need protection, but we also need unraveling if it does get through a closing. I've heard from somebody who does title searches that it's very difficult to unravel, and Tara, Senator Reardon, maybe you would know better than I. But the realtors think this is a really important conversation, and we think that it should be continued. They're 2 steps ahead of us all the time. So.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Questions? Senator Reardon.
Thank you, and thank you for taking my question.
Yeah.
You knew I was going to do this.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes to you, so this gentleman, it does sound like that was a fraud, but is a realtor's normal routine to get a legal description of that property, a copy of the last deed, or anything like that before you would accept somebody saying they want to sell a piece of property?
So I don't think that there's anything that says you must do that. But as a result of this increased fraud, we've talked about other things that you can do. I believe there was a law passed last year that we can ask for a driver's license to see if it matches the name, the face, although I believe that possibly could be doctored. We tell people to actually, pull the deed. But beyond that, we tell people to actually go to the property, talk to the neighbors, and see if they know who the owner is, and see if they've heard of any interest in their selling. So there's so many things that we need to do before we should take a vacant land sale. I have to say, when you're having a very pleasant conversation, it's easy to sort of not think about that. It's not like it's coming from a call center or sounds like it's far away or any of that. And actually, the fact that he said that he was living in Exeter probably was just one more thing to make it seem like close by. So I don't know that there's any rules that you have to do. It's a very good business practice. Brokers are advised, obviously, to tell their agents to do all that stuff to make sure that it's a legitimate sale.
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. So I see that the study committee is about quitclaim deeds, but that's just possibly one of the vehicles to sell property. A quitclaim deed, it really isn't that the quitclaim deed itself is the problem. It's the lack of evidence of ownership that's the problem.
Right. I think
in selling this. I mean, there is a statutory form quitclaim deed on the books already. It's in statute. So it's not the form of the deed, it's the circumstances behind the transaction that we really need to get to.
Right. I think that's right. I think that we have to be looking at all of it, because I don't know what it's going to be next week. Like, it seems like if we're not talking about it, they're just getting more and more ahead of us in what they can do. And unfortunately, for the owners, like in the land fraud, they don't have any idea it's happening. It's just, one of the things that we've heard that might work for prevention is to send a registered letter to the person at the address, so that, like, if they're in Georgia someplace, you can send them a letter and please call me. We've had this information. I had the president of the Connecticut Association of Realtors has property in Guilford, New Hampshire. And I was at a meeting and he told me he'd received 2 calls from agents at different times, somebody trying to sell his land. And you can only imagine how much that would be worth.
All
Thank
set?
you. I am
Thank
all
you.
set.
Senator Apples.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. In your experience with land fraud, are you seeing it any more or less frequent when it's property that's owned in trust as opposed to owned in an individual capacity?
I couldn't answer that for sure. Like when I hear about it, it's at meetings, somebody says, oh, this happened to me. I actually heard one that got all the way to the closing table and they couldn't verify, the title company couldn't verify the seller. So it ended right there. Interestingly, they reached out to the owner of the land at that point and said, this has happened, just beware. It didn't go through. And the owner said, well, that's interesting because I was trying to sell the land and they actually got the sale to come together. So you hear like those funny, weird stories. But you don't necessarily hear that piece.
Well,
And just a curiosity, I mean, so it sounds like the title agent was able to catch the problem, at least see the red flag. What was it that they picked up on? Because I mean, sometimes it's, and this is a cash deal, if there's any type of financing, there's going to be a title agent.
Well, I think all sales close with the title company or a lawyer. No, well, I mean, all
It's a good
sales.
idea.
Okay, all sales that we're part of close with the title company. I have never in 18 years closed without a title company. I've never heard of anybody or a lawyer. So I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering what did
Oh, what
they
was-
catch? Or
so
as
in this
opposed to
case-
why is it missed sometimes?
So in this case, the seller was overseas, and they were going to be able to be there, and they would have that person's driver's license, also somebody notarizing that it was them, and then all of a sudden they couldn't be there. They couldn't be on the Zoom call or whatever it was. So that's what was the final thing. But so yeah, I mean, there's possibly sales out there without a title company or without a lawyer. I don't have any knowledge of those.
Thank you.
thank you very much for your testimony today. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Nancy, Nancy DeAngelis.
Oh, thank you so much.
Welcome.
My name is Nancy DeAngelis. I'm an Assistant Attorney General. I am here in neither favor or object, but to provide information to the committee for your decision-making purposes. And I actually was the co-author of the press release that Representative Turr mentioned. I am in the Elder Abuse and Exploitation Unit at the Attorney General's office, and because this particular crime deeply impacts that community, we've sort of become the resident depository for these cases. So I thought what would be helpful as you decide whether to vote in favor of this is to give you an actual example of a case that came to our office that ultimately resolved. And just so you can understand the touch points along the way, where the red flags were to the extent that you then consider legislation moving forward. So in this instance, the scammer posed as the property owner and approached a real estate agent online to list the property. The scammer used an email address that looked authentic. So let's say it's property owned by John Smith. They get a Gmail account. This is johnsmith@gmail.com. The scammer and that real estate agent never meet. A listing agreement is exchanged online by email and signed electronically. That agent then secures a buyer, and this is going to be a full cash transaction. So there's no need for a lender and no need for the lender to get title insurance. The real estate agent then connects the scammer with an attorney. So I'll call that the seller's attorney, although it's the scammer's attorney at this point because it's not the real seller. The seller's attorney then communicates with the scammer by email or phone, and they never meet. The seller's attorney prepares the deed to transfer the property and emails it to the scammer. The scammer prints it. The scammer then goes online and finds a jurisdiction where the notary public information is publicly available, pretends to be that notary, signs it as if he were the notary, and puts a fake stamp on it and sends it back. The scammer, again, sends it back to the seller's attorney. The buyer's attorney handles all of the paperwork that would normally be exchanged in an in-person closing, essentially receiving the deed from the seller's attorney and wiring the purchase money to the bank account that the scammer indicated he would receive the proceeds. He can then, the deed is recorded. The bank account is one in which the scammer can quickly transfer the funds before the account is flagged, often creating that account in the name of the true seller, using information that has been procured by identity theft, and using one of those bank accounts that you can form online as opposed to being required to do so in person. The money is gone, and the real owners of this property have no idea that their property is gone, and they find out when they get their 1099-S in the mail. So the 1099-S is sent to the address that is on file at the tax assessor's office to the former testimony offerer, providing communication beforehand about the pendency of the closing to that address could be one of the stopgap measures that we've discussed internally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. I never really counted, but I know my law office, we get emails, oh, can you help us sell this? I live in whatever, which is a dead giveaway, especially overseas. In the legal field, this is in your office, but in the legal field, is there any training that lawyers are doing to avoid? Because the red flags you're describing, like we always say, oh, we don't see the person ever in person. They want us to use a bank account. They want to wire everything. It's we don't even know who they are. I guess if they have their own attorney, but even the seller's attorney, are they local as well?
So in this instance, everyone was local except for the person purporting to be. Oh, do you mean the real seller?
The person committing fraud has an attorney as well.
The attorney that they end up getting is one that their agent provides for them, who's local but who never meets them.
Well,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my question.
Thank you.
Do the scammers generally use the name of the person that actually owns the property?
Yes, and they go so far as to provide very compelling looking driver's licenses as well.
And a follow-up? And the other thing that I just think is ironic as I sit here, a quitclaim deed purports to convey whatever ownership you have. So if you have no ownership, ultimately, it's still your land, if it was your land.
Yeah. I think sorry to be non-responsive, but the interesting thing about this is this actually was a warranty deed, but there was no title insurance involved because it was a cash transaction. So these transfers are occurring, this particular version of impersonation fraud. The person who is selling the property could care less that, in fact, they didn't have rightful title to sell it and will forge a warranty deed because all they care about is the cash transaction. So what ends up happening is you have buyers who are real people who maybe don't satisfy the bona fide purchaser for value. I'm getting a little out of my...
Or get a title search done.
Or get it right. But at that point, then it becomes a dispute between the buyer who believes they're the rightful person who owns the property and the actual seller the actual owner who had no idea this was going on.
Gotcha.
And you would hope that those resolve amicably and a retransfer of title, but my understanding, and I know just enough real estate law on the civil side to get through this conversation, but I think a petition to quiet title is what ends up happening if the parties can otherwise reach an agreement.
Sure. And those are expensive.
And to the extent that the buyer was represented by an attorney and was providing cash and thought that this was a legitimate transaction, we actually have two victims. We have buyers as victim and sellers and real owners as victim.
One follow-up? And the purported seller's attorney have some liability?
I think these things need to be borne out. I think we need, again, I'm not here to advocate, but I think that the impetus for my testimony was to get you all to be thinking about all of the particular players who are involved in these transactions, all the opportunities to where identity fraud is happening, where theft of information is happening, where best practices can be defined.
So, follow up, well, last one. So ultimately, it's not about a quitclaim deed. It's about scammers that may or may not use a quitclaim deed to scam the property.
That's exactly right. I mean, this is really, this is in this instance, an impersonation fraud.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You were enlightening as you meant to be. So thank you very much for coming today. And I believe there's no one else to testify in 1366, is there? Seeing none, that'll end. Oh, that's the wrong one. Which one are we on here? We're on 1040. That'll end the hearing on HB 1040. We're getting to you, Kevin. We're getting there. Brendan, so Representative Roy's not here. I'll send Daryl. I'll have him do it. Senator Abbas, do you want to introduce the next bill, Representative Roy's bill on military orders? 1366. Thank you. Thirteen sixty-six, yes, sir. Yes, right there, big print. We got it. Thank you, Senator Ambus, for introducing this next bill, 1366, an act relative to military orders of protection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senator Darrell Abbas. I represent District 22, here to introduce HB 1366. The prime sponsor I did not see anywhere in the building. Representative Roy, he's a pal, he was the vice chair when I was the chair of criminal justice and public safety in the other chamber. So I'll reserve any testimony and for an executive session.
Thank you very much, Senator. Kevin Grady.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee. For the record, my name is Kevin Grady. I am a 25-year Air Force veteran, and I'm a 28-year resident of the town of Hooksett, New Hampshire. Today, I'm here representing the State Veterans Advisory Committee. We support this legislation, and I want to just give you a little bit of background on why this new bill is important. It builds on last year's bill, which was House Bill 62, that essentially allowed for a spouse to take a military protective order in to a civil trial and get a restraining order against someone. And a military protective order is kind of like a civilian restraining order in that I, as a commander, tell you, you have to stay away from these folks. What this that bill sailed through both houses last time and was signed by the governor on the 2nd of June. And the current bill that you have in front of you builds on that relationship that we're hoping to build between civilian law enforcement and the military. It's a little bit unique here in New Hampshire. We do have an active duty squadron at Pease. So those people are on duty all the time. The Guard folks, on the other hand, are on duty for 1 weekend a month and a couple of weeks a year, unless they're deployed like our folks are now, supporting the current conflict in Iran. But essentially, a military restraining order is an order given by a commander that is still in the administrative realm, meaning you're not subject to the UCMJ unless you violate this thing. If you violate this thing, now we've moved from the civilian realm over here, or the administrative realm over here to the now you could go to jail and face criminal charges because you violated this. So what this bill does is it allows for our civilian law enforcement folks to be able to report instances where they believe that a military protective order has been violated. And that could be as simple as the spouse in question calls her local police and says, hey, there's a military protective order here that my military spouse has just violated. And then that lets our law enforcement folks go be the people that come tell the guard. Now, when this was in the House, the one change you see that was amended by the House, the one change that they made, which was very small, was that the local law enforcement would notify the New Hampshire National Guard General Counsel or their designee. We didn't want to pin it to one person. And, we want to say to the office as opposed to one person that might not be in town when that happened. So due to the unique situations that we have here in New Hampshire where we don't have any post housing, when I was a commander in the Air Force, if this situation arose, I could literally tell the person they had to move out of their on-base house and move into the barracks or move into the bachelor officer quarters on base until such time as this is all cooled off and we figured out where we're going to go from here. So because we're not in that situation, we don't own any post housing or base housing in New Hampshire, this is sort of the next best thing. And I found when I was a commander in the active Air Force that the relationships with civilian law enforcement are really, really important. And to some degree, they're a little bit personality dependent, but something like this gives them an incentive to go work on that. So for those reasons, we support this legislation. And subject to your questions, that's really all I wanted to tell you today.
Senator Abbassaswa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. I've reached my 40s. I'm still learning proper grammar. I understand the main purpose of the bill. It looks like there's some housekeeping on lines 11 through 16, where it's just changing. It's using a lowercase instead of an uppercase when it referencing the New Hampshire National Guard and New Hampshire Air National Guard and the New Hampshire Army National Guard. Is it proper to not capitalize those in a sentence?
I don't know. I didn't make these changes. I would have capitalized it because I probably overcapitalized most things. The 157th Air Refueling Wing offices, I believe, are really important now that we have an active duty tanker squadron alongside of the guard tanker squadron that we have at Pease, because those folks work for the 157th Air Refueling Wing and the wing commander there, but they're not actually part of the guard. So it's really important that we have that part in there. That was in the original new paragraph.
If you don't mind confirming that, because I would have, if I was writing, I would capitalize it.
I would too.
Other parts of the statute aren't capitalized.
It's not?
No.
Kevin, lawyers dwell in small details.
Which is a good thing. It's also a respect matter too.
I am not an attorney at all, and I defer to people that wanted to go to college for 6 years to study that stuff. And then sometimes I have to be honest with you. Sometimes for our State Veterans Advisory Committee, we come to you folks and we go, we love the concept, but the actual how it gets put into the RSAs, we're going to leave to people smarter than us. And so, I defer to your judgment on whether those things ought to be capitalized, Senator.
Thank you very much. Other follow-up, or you all set?
I'm asking you.
Well, I would do it. Yes, sir.
Okay, 110B, it's a whole section that's not.
Thank you very much, Mr.
right.
Brady. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senators.
Melissa Willett. Cool title. I'm with the DOD. I like that.
Thank you, Senator Gannon and members of the committee. My name is Melissa Willett, and I'm the New England Regional Liaison for the Defense State Liaison Office. I work for the Defense Department, and I work across New England with state leaders, both state agency directors, military installation commanders, and elected officials on policy that can negatively impact our service members and their families. And interpersonal violence is one of those issues. Interpersonal violence can be defined as any behavior that asserts power or control over another person. These instances of harmful behavior often involve personnel who interact with both civilian and military jurisdictions, and without coordinated communications, violations may go unreported and unaddressed, risking further harm to victims. The Defense Department sees this as a safety and accountability issue. Violating a military protective order is a serious offense and can lead to disciplinary actions under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, including non-judicial punishment, court-martial, or administrative separation. Civilian law enforcement officers have no authority regarding the enforcement of MPOs off installation. However, there are ways to enhance communication between military and civilian law enforcement that will provide support to victims. This particular bill focuses on the roles of law enforcement officers and notification of a service member's MPO violation to the appropriate law enforcement agency, meaning the agency that entered the MPO into the NCIC database. That would most often be the Military Police Authority. Current Criminal Justice Information Services policy states that because local law enforcement authorities cannot take official action on MPOs, those local authorities are not required to notify the military authority. Simply put, House Bill 1366 offers a framework to better support victims and hold offenders accountable while facilitating information sharing between both civilian and military law enforcement entities. We thank the committee for considering this important legislation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Thank you very much for your testimony. No questions, I guess. Thank you. Have a great day. Does anyone else wish to testify on HB 1366? I knew you were a no, unless you're changing your mind. But no, we're all set. Thank you. That'll end the hearing. We're all set. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn. Vote. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Naming the organization. I just always.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I'm looking at 110, Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services.